Hello once again, and welcome to the video. In this one, with just a few days to go before the start of the 2025 Formula One World Championship, I thought I would do a video of my hilarious, often hilarious predictions. I've done it the last few years, and I thought I would. And someone actually suggested that I sort of list literally 1 to 20. I'm not sure if I did 1 to 20 last year, but yes, that's what I'm going to do. Almost an impossible thing to predict, of course, but I thought it'd be quite interesting to list all the drivers down in a finishing position that I reckon they could well be in, and then compare it at the end of the season to the actual championship rundown and see if I got any of them correct. It would be highly likely that I actually wouldn't get any correct. I'd be happy with, say 5, 6, 7 correct, maybe, at the end of the season. I think the main ones that I would want to get correct, of course, are the ones at the top. You know, whether or not I successfully guess who finishes 13th in the championship is not really important and impossible to predict, basically. But I'm going to have a go. It's not impossible to predict the top few, so I'll be happy if some of those come off. Actually, depends who I put down in those positions, of course, as to whether or not I'd be happy being right. And then I'll also do the Constructors Championship, just down here, the finishing order. Let's dive in, shall we? Now, for a laugh, let's start at number 20. Now, I don't like putting this person at number 20, but they are brand new and in probably the weakest car. Bortoleto, and I'm putting his teammate just above him. Now, Bortoleto, F3 champion at his first attempt, then F2 champion at his first attempt, and I think potentially the best of all the newcomers, including Antonelli. Difference is that Antonelli is in a Mercedes, Bortoleto is in a Sauber, so I cannot see. I tried to lift him off the bottom spot. There was actually a couple of other people that I put there. I even put Stroll right at the bottom, and then I thought, no, I can't do that. So I tried to avoid having Bortoleto down there, but I thought he's bound to be edged by his more experienced teammate, and but of course he could easily finish ahead if they get lucky and score a point this season. It could easily be Bortoleto that gets that point. But thinking about it, the field is so good. The drivers are particularly strong this year. The only weak driver, the only weak link in the whole 20 drivers, I think, is Lance Stroll. And he's the one I've put down next. I do sometimes get a bit of blowback when I criticise Stroll. When he first came into Formula One, he was really good. He had a podium, didn't he, at Azerbaijan, 2017 was that, or something. But I think he suffered from being in his dad's team, basically. It must constantly keep him awake at night, the fact that he must constantly think, I'm not there on merit. Maybe he is. Maybe Aston Martin would pick him even if he wasn't a Stroll. But I would expect that to be playing on his mind, and I have to say that I don't think he would be there if he wasn't a Stroll. And I think that affects his performance. I think he had the raw ability, but I don't think it's helped him at all, as I've said in previous videos. It's not helped him at all. And not helped him at all being in his dad's team. And having Alonso as a teammate as well. I rejuvenated Alonso. But the Force India is not looking too promising this year. So Alonso will also struggle. Yes, Adrian Newey might be able to chip in with a few updates, but I think mainly they're going to be telling Adrian Newey, forget about this car. Don't get involved in it. Just do 2026. Because they shouldn't, and that's what they should do. They should, not have him interfering with this year's car. Because it will take him away from what he's doing with 2026's car. So Aston Martin next year, watch out. But this year, I think they're going to be quite low, unless they do use Adrian Newey. But putting him away from one drawing board to try and chip away at another drawing board for updates, I don't think that's necessarily a good idea. Okay, 17th. Hadjar, runner-up to Bortoleto in F2 last year. Did a lot of testing, was steady in the testing, not great, but the racing bulls are not shining, or didn't shine in testing. Okay, I know they say don't look at the times in testing, but everyone does look at the times, and everyone comes away from testing with an idea of the team to beat. It is quite amusing how when a driver says, don't look at any of the times, don't look at my times, don't look at anybody else's times, and then they'll say, the McLaren looks good. I say, well, you've been looking at the McLaren's times, haven't you? So they do look at the times, of course, and you do get a general idea, even just a fan like myself, you do get a general idea of what teams are going to do well. 16th, I'm going to say, is his teammate. Tsunoda. Yeah, I think he'll just edge. He'll suffer in the same way that Hadjar will this year in the Racing Bull. But he should edge Hadjar. Tsunoda's getting better and better all the time, so he should do. 15th. Ocon, and I'm going to put now all of these positions look a little bit 2 by 2 at the moment, don't they? That's going to happen to a certain extent with these predictions because teammates are driving the same car, but it's not all like that, as you can see by Stroll being there. Bearman and Ocon, I think, yes, I do. I think Bearman will edge Ocon. Not because he will be faster necessarily, but I just think that Bearman might have less accidents. Now, is that in focus? I think it's been in focus this time. Yeah, I think Bearman will have less accidents, basically. Ocon is a little bit of a torpedo on the track. So I think Bearman, and he's done so well so far. He's raced in 3 races in 2024 and he's scored points in 2 of them, including that one in the Ferrari. I mean, we're talking about Hamilton not having time and enough time in the Ferrari before the season starts, but he's sort of getting to grips with it slowly. He's getting there. Bearman just had to jump in. I mean, I don't think he did any runs in the Ferrari before that, did he? All his testing, all his practice sessions in earlier in the year and in 2023, I think, did he do some? They were all in a Haas, weren't they? So I don't think he'd been in a Ferrari before. And he finished 7th. Correct me if I'm wrong about him being in a Ferrari. But he finished 7th, fantastic, in that race. So, in Saudi Arabia, Jeddah. So I think he will pip Ocon. 13th, Alonso. Comfortably down because of that Aston Martin that I assume we'll not get any updates from Adrian Newey, as I said. Next up, 11th and 12th. Well, these are teammates again, I'm afraid. Doohan and Gasly. Gasly should have the beating of Doohan. Doohan's very good, yes, but Gasly should beat him in the Alpine. Gasly's very good and has been doing very well in testing. The Alpine's not has looked quite good in testing, so I'm expecting Gasly to be 11th, basically. Okay, 10th. It does shake up a little bit as I go through the top 10, more so than here with the teammates. But the next two, I'm afraid, are 2 by 2 again. We have Alex Albon. Followed by Sainz, of course. Yeah, so I think they will be in the top 10 in the championship, going by testing and the fact that they've got two very good drivers. Albon and Sainz, I don't think they'll be clashing. I think we're more likely to see issues between Piastri and Norris, and potentially even Leclerc and Hamilton, but I don't think there'll be anything between Sainz and Albon. So I just think they'll support each other, support the team, and do really well. And so I think they will be 9th and 10th, with Sainz edging Albon. Again, just an edging by one teammate over the other. Okay, 8th place. I think it's 2 L's, isn't it? Antonelli. Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Or as Ted Kravitz calls him, Kimi Andrea Antonelli. All the focus seems to be on his middle name, Kimi, so some people out there think it's Kimi Andrea Antonelli, but of course it's Andrea Kimi Antonelli. I'd call him Andy, basically. If I was a mechanic in the Mercedes pit, everybody else would be calling him Kimi. I'd call him Andy, probably. Short for, Andrea. So yes, 8th place. I mean, yeah, I suppose that's quite low, but there's so much competition in those top teams that I can't see him being any higher than that, really. And in 7th place, just ahead of him, Liam Lawson. I think he will just once again edge out Antonelli. He's more experienced. Lawson, he's raced in about 10 races, has he now? And he's got fantastic temperament, a really fiery, feisty temperament. So I'd love to see Lawson take on Verstappen this year. But yeah, I think he'll be ahead of Antonelli. So 6th place. George Russell. Now, in my last video, I said in Australia, the winner I thought would either be Verstappen, Norris or Russell, and I still go along with that. But I think over the whole championship, I think the Ferraris will get to grips with their stuff. Piastri will speed up, and I think that'll knock Russell down. So over the whole championship, I'm going to say 6th place for George Russell, even though I'm touting him for victory in Australia. Oscar Piastri in 5th. Once again, some people watching this video would be horrified at that again. And I think some people think I've got it in for Piastri. I don't, but I just like to state the facts, and that is that so far in their 2-year partnership, Norris has had the beating of Piastri. And after 2 years, Piastri should be experienced enough, and yet Norris was still getting the better of him at the end of last year, even after Piastri had done 50 races in a top team. So, and remember, Piastri won, he won F3 and F2 at the first attempt, didn't he? So he clearly isn't someone that normally needs a lot of time to pick up speed. I think it's just a simple case that Norris was faster than him the last 2 years. Who knows if that will continue, but I think it will. I think all these positions in the top 10 points-wise will be quite close, by the way. Is it still in focus? I think so. So, Lewis Hamilton. I do not want these predictions to come true. That's why I said at the beginning of the video, I was saying, oh, hopefully I'll be proven correct, and then I corrected myself because I don't actually want to be correct with some of these predictions. I want Hamilton to win the championship, to win his 8th championship that he basically won in 2021 before the rules were changed from, the rules were whipped away from under his feet, basically, by Michael Massey, who suddenly went as mad as a box of frogs and chose the wrong minute to go, wrong moment to go loopy. Did Michael Massey. Okay, and don't give me any of that. Michael Massey was under a lot of pressure. He's paid to be under a lot of pressure. Michael Massey was paid tons of money to be under pressure. So just getting a few radio calls from Christian Horner shouldn't have been enough to make him completely go off the rails. Okay, so Hamilton in 4th place, I think so. Which means, obviously, I therefore believe that Leclerc will finish ahead of him. Yeah, so I think Leclerc will edge Hamilton. I think it'll be very close, but I think he's got the raw speed over Hamilton now. Not when Hamilton was younger. But I don't think anyone could match Hamilton for speed when he was younger. But he's 40 now, so if Leclerc beats Hamilton, it's not really a massive pat on the back for Leclerc. Now, Leclerc says, when asked about the threat from Hamilton, Leclerc always says, oh, well, he's a 7-time champion, I've got a lot of respect for him. But you can have a lot of respect for your grandparents, can't you? That doesn't mean those grandparents are going to be able to beat you at a football match in the back garden. So respecting someone for their history is not the same as respecting someone on their current form. So I suspect Leclerc thinks he would beat Hamilton on 40-year-old Hamilton. I think he'd be quite surprised and a bit shocked if he didn't. And I think he will. I don't want him to. Nothing against Leclerc, but, you know, I'm a big Hamilton fan. I was before he even entered Formula One. So I want Hamilton to win the championship, but I think Leclerc will edge him. Second, I think it'll be Norris again. Again, I don't want to be right, because if Hamilton doesn't win the championship, I want Norris to win it, or Russell. Preferably Norris after he came close last year. But I think Norris has got number 2 again written all over him. I really hope not. So I have Verstappen as my title favourite, even though Norris is the favourite with most bookies. The Red Bull, yes, didn't impress as much as either McLaren or Mercedes, but it's got Verstappen in the car, hasn't it? So that's why I've got Lawson down in 7th, Verstappen first. The same as McLaren in 2008. In 2008, Hamilton won the championship. His teammate, Heikki Kovalainen, was 7th in the championship. So it's not all about the car. And we know that from the fact that Perez has never even come close to winning the championship. So that's I do think Verstappen will edge it, but I do think it'll be close. I do think it'll be a close run thing. But I don't want that to be the case. I really don't. I'll be disappointed if it's another championship for Verstappen. I really will. It pains me to write this list, and I hope I'm wrong. Right, so Constructors' Championship. But I have to put down what I think will happen, not just what I want to happen. I think the championship, though, due to the consistent performance of their two top drivers, will go to Ferrari this time. I think it'll be similar in a way to last year, where you got one driver at the top, but then the teams are very close. So yeah, Ferrari with Leclerc and Hamilton, the strength, and I think Ferrari will just get better and better throughout the year, and I think they'll get better and better to the extent where Hamilton and Leclerc will be fighting for the championship. That's what I'd love to see. That's what I want. The two Ferraris fighting for the championship. I don't want Hamilton to blow Leclerc away. I want there to be, and I don't want Leclerc obviously to blow Hamilton away. I want there to be stiff competition. And I'd love to see the two Ferraris going at it. When was the last time we had two Ferrari drivers fighting for the World Championship? You can't say 2009. 2008, because Raikkonen had gone off the boil and drifted off. The defending champion had gone to sleep, allowing Massa to come through. You can't say 2010 either. Not 2007 either, because Massa was not really fighting Raikkonen for the championship. Amazingly, I think and not in the Schumacher years either, I think you have to go all the way back to 1979. It springs to mind, with Jody Scheckter and Gilles Villeneuve. I'd have to remind myself how close that championship was, but I think Villeneuve was second in that championship. I think he was runner-up. Is that the last time the Ferraris have been first and second in a championship? 1979? I don't know. I might be right, I might be wrong there. Anyway, let's continue. Second place, I think, will be McLaren. Oh dear, I left the lid off too long. Okay. Left the lid off too long. McLaren, yeah. Strong performance, Norris, Piastri. Piastri may well be higher, but I think the Ferraris are going to get stronger and stronger throughout the year. Hopefully they're sandbagging at the moment. They're a couple of tenths, they seem to be a couple of tenths away from McLaren and maybe Mercedes as well, but I'm hoping they're sort of just going through their routine, sandbagging to a certain extent. Red Bull, I think they will come third again, because it'll be the Max Verstappen show. Lawson down in 7th. So therefore I think Red Bull will be third. With 4th, therefore obviously, I'm not being very adventurous, am I, with this, but Mercedes. Yeah, you got Russell, Antonelli. I've got them 6th and 8th. That's terrible, isn't it? Because they did really well in testing. But I'm thinking about the whole season. The whole season is what I'm looking at. Going into Australia, I think Mercedes are looking really strong. But I think Ferrari are going to come back at them. Now 5th, this is when it gets interesting. Well, anyone who saw testing would think this was a bit obvious, actually. But I'm putting Williams 5th. They're two drivers. I have them 9th and 10th here. And yeah, Sainz and Albon. Testing went really well. Sainz did the fastest lap in the whole of testing on the second day. Oh yeah, I know, we don't look at times, blah, blah. But Williams are looking very good. They're looking solid. They're looking reliable for a change in testing, which they don't normally look and looking fast as well. So 5th place. I mean, I'd like, no, I wouldn't like them to win. Yeah, I'd like them to win, actually. I like Hamilton to win the Drivers' Championship and Sainz and Albon to sort of finish 2nd and 3rd in the Drivers' Championship, and so Williams win there. And maybe Leclerc can be 4th, you know, if you want. And Williams just pip Ferrari to the Constructors' Championship. 6th place, Alpine. Now, Williams always have, I know that they're owned by some, I don't know, Malaysian conglomerate or something now, but they've still got the name Williams, and I grew up cheering on Nigel Mansell. You know, he won his first. I was 14 years old when Mansell won his first race. I was 21 when he won the championship. Mansell's first win was in a Williams. His last win was in a Williams. All of his wins were for Williams, apart from 3, 2 in 89 and 1 in 90. All those 3 were for Ferrari. Every other one of his 31 races, so 28, were all for Williams. So, very nostalgic for me, thinking back to those old Williams championship winning days. Williams have not won a race since 2012 with Pastor Maldonado in Spain, and that win, they were really competitive. I remember Hamilton had a problem in qualifying and got demoted to 8th place on the grid, so that knocked out Hamilton. Otherwise, he could well have won. But Maldonado then started on pole, I think, and then he was fighting Alonso all the way through. So it was a well-deserved win by Maldonado. That was in 2012. The previous win for Williams before that was 2004, I think. Montoya. Dear, it's a long time. Alpine. Yeah, I remember the Williams pit garage caught fire, didn't it, after that race, and some people were injured whilst the Williams team was celebrating 2012. Anyway, Alpine, yeah. So we've got Gasly and Doohan. Strong. Now, they'll think that they want to do much better than 6th, because didn't they come 6th last year? They recovered from 9th to 6th at the Brazilian Grand Prix, I think, and held on to it. I think they'll be 6th again, even though they've got a good team, a good car in testing. It's such a strong field. 7th. Haas. Yeah, so who have they got? They've got, who have Haas got again? I'm struggling to remember. Oh yeah, of course, Bearman and Ocon. And I think, yeah, that's a fairly obvious thing. 14th and 15th in the championship, 7th place for Haas again. Now, I'm one of these people that doesn't automatically think that just because the team principle was changed, that Haas are going to necessarily change. I think they'll have good years and they'll have bad years, just like they did under Günther Steiner. So, I think this is going to be another one of their sort of average years, basically. A good year, 7th, I think. So for Williams to move up, the law of equal and opposites and everything means that Aston Martin have to drop. So I think they will drop down to 8th, but they're just thinking about 2026, keeping everything neat and tidy, not disturbing Adrian Newey, and they're going to hit 2026 full blast. But this year, 8th, I reckon. Racing Bull. Again, they've not really impressed anything, not really impressed in testing at all. So Tsunoda and Hadjar, yeah, 9th place, I think. Which just leaves the kick Sauber, basically, in 10th spot. Unsurprising, seeing as I've got Hulkenberg and Bortoleto 19th and 20th. So, there you have it. There's my list. If I did this list after the Australian Grand Prix, it may well look slightly different. But we shouldn't predict the whole season just going by the Australian Grand Prix. Certainly not the cars. The drivers, yes. I mean, if for instance, Antonelli drives with extreme confidence and does really well and no mistakes, then I might think he might finish higher than 8th. But as regards the cars, it's difficult to judge just from one race, just from one track, basically. So even if Ferrari are clearly off the pace in Australia, I wouldn't necessarily change that top spot, because they're not, going by testing, they're not far off the pace. They're very close, and they might even be sandbagging. So watch out. I think Ferrari are going to take the championship this year, and I hope it's Hamilton. I hope he's not 4th. Right. Thank you very much for watching and for listening. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so. I'll do videos throughout the year, of course, after every Grand Prix, like I usually do. Plus, there'll be other races, other videos, both Formula 1 ones and non-Formula 1 ones. Yeah, if you'd like to subscribe, please do so, or like the video, or comment on the video, or even leave a tip on the thanks button below the video. It will be highly appreciated, any of those. But mainly thank you for watching and listening. So, until next time, it's goodbye from me.